Hey, Sinsters! Welcome back to the Sinsters Podcast. I, of course, am Betty Tucker, and with me, as always, is Noodles and Talia. Would you ladies like to say hello?
Hello, nurse.
Hi, Sinsters.
Today we got three great stories to bring to you guys. So we're going to jump right into the first one here. And this one, again, is from my home state of Georgia. We've got a lot of creepy stuff that happens here. So this one is called A Slave Named Elleck. A slave named Elleck is said to haunt the old Lawrenceville jail in Lawrenceville, Georgia. This is his story. Elleck reached across the rough-hewed table and gave his wife's hand a squeeze. His gentle touch softened the weariness around her beautiful eyes, and Betsy returned his gaze with a shy smile. Suddenly, they heard a terrible noise, a noise that made their blood run cold. Elleck saw terror in Betsy's eyes. As their gaze exchanged, they both said a silent prayer. Please, please let this evil pass us by tonight. The door to the kitchen house burst open, and in stormed a man who owned them. Colonel James Austin, drunk, ranting, belligerent, swearing. Elleck tried to calm him down, but this only enraged him further. The colonel grabbed Betsy, yelling it was his time to take what was rightfully his. Betsy screamed. Before Elleck could stop himself, he tore Betsy away from the master and threw him to the floor. Betsy fled. The full force of Master's rage turned on Elleck. With Master running after him, Elleck raced out the kitchen house. If he could just find a place to hide until the demon liquor could leave him, he might be able to survive the night. Master staggered into the main house and grabbed his cavalry sword. Master went to Elleck's house, slamming into the small building, following Elleck up to the sleeping loft, and grabbed Elleck, all the while screaming with a murderous intent. There wasn't enough room in the loft to stand, but that didn't stop Master from swinging his sword. The sword lodged in the roof board, and Elleck was able to grab Master's hand. Master, jerking away from Elleck's grasp, staggered and fell onto the floor, and then there was a long, terrible silence. Master was dead. But Elleck didn't run away that night, that night of October the 10th, 1948. He instead walked to the Gwinnett County Courthouse and sat upon the steps all night long, so that in the morning he could tell the sheriff what had happened. How his master, Colonel James Austin, one of the richest men in the county, had been killed, but it was in self-defense. Elleck was only one of two enslaved men to ever be put on trial in Gwinnett County. The judge, of course, found him guilty, and Elleck was sentenced to be hanged. The sheriff brought Elleck to the jail, threw him into a tiny cell, and locked the door. Knowing it was a terrible miscarriage of justice, Elleck broke a bar from his bed and began to chip away at the walls. Unfortunately, there was people outside the jail and they could hear it, and they reported a tapping noise to the sheriff. When the sheriff heard of what he had done, he chained Elleck by the hands and by the feet to the floor for 3 days. Elleck begged just to be allowed to sit, but his pleas were ignored. To pass the time, Elleck sang to his beloved. Oh, Betsy, will you meet me? Oh, Betsy, will you meet me? Betsy, will you meet me in heaven above? On November 10th, 1848, exactly 1 month after James Austin was killed, Elleck was taken from the jail to the gallows and hanged. The people in witness swear his spirit never left that jail cell that he was so tightly chained to. And you can still hear him singing today. In heaven above. So the old Lawrenceville jail, they have a new jail, but the old one you can actually still take tours, and it's a creepy, crumbling building, exactly what you would expect from a jail that was built in the 1800s. I personally have never heard the singing, but a lot of people have, and it's also said that you'll hear the tapping and the scraping. and sometimes you'll actually hear chains. But ultimately, I find this story to be quite sad, and it is just pitiful.
It's
So,
horrific.
what do you guys think?
It's horrific.
Yeah, it's definitely not great. It's sad and it's scary.
I think one of the saddest things is that even though this horrible thing happened, his soul, his spirit, may be permanently attached to this horrible place where this horrible thing happened to him. And I find that just to be heartbreaking.
The thing that's like bothering me the most about it is what's happened when he was chained up in that jail cell to his wife. Like, you know, she's probably suffered a lot of like abuse after that point as well, and like the whole freaking story is just so sad and horrible. I don't think even words can describe it, you know.
Yeah, like it's really sad. Like someone had to go through that. It's just you cannot imagine.
I'm kind of hopeful that his spirit isn't tied there. Maybe it's just mice scratching and nibbling. Maybe a janitor sings the song that goes to clean the place for tourists. Fingers crossed.
I think one of the saddest things to me, though, is that, yeah, you mentioned his wife, considering that they were slaves. You know, they were owned by this man.
Yeah.
Chances are he never got to see her again.
Chances are that she like suffered a lot of abuse at the hands of that master.
Well, the master was dead at that point. I can only assume whomever took over the...
Oh god, yeah. Oh, well...
But she probably never got to go see him again. He probably never saw her, because I doubt that they'd be like, oh, well, you know, it's fine. We know you killed your master and all, but here, your wife can come and see you. I really don't see that happening.
No. And I think my concern mainly is, like, the master was the type of person that wanted to claim what was rightfully his. Like, that stuck in my craw, so to say, is, like, I feel like if that master had a son, he'd be the same kind of person. Because,
Exactly.
like, that's the type of time. And I'm fingers crossed, like, that lady, like, horrible though it is, was sold on to someone nicer.
Yeah, we would hope. But could a slave master ever at that point actually be considered nice?
True.
But anyway, so I really took us down low with that story. So the next story, we're going to hope to maybe brighten up things a little bit. So Noodles, take it away.
Yeah, like, fuck slavery. God damn it, Betty. I'm fucking crying. I'm fucking crying. I hate you. Okay. Right. Story I've got, a bit more creepy. Like, not so much sad, it's just like, have you ever heard of the Highgate Vampire?
No.
No, not at all.
Okay. The Highgate Vampire is... There's a place in London called the Highgate... Like, it's either called the Gardens or, like, the Cemetery, and it's Tottenham Park Cemetery in London, and there's, like, an area in it called the Highgate. And this place is, like, infamously known for being, like, the stomping grounds of a vampire since, like, the 1960s. So, I've got, like, a piece to read out about it, so I'll do that and we'll see what we get from there. So, late in the 1960s, a time when it was being vandalised by intruders, according to a report in the London Evening News, November 2nd, 1968. In the night of Halloween, 1968, a graveyard desecration by persons unknown occurred at Tottenham Park Cemetery, London. These persons arranged flowers taken from graves in circular patterns with arrows of blooms pointing to a new grave, which was uncovered. A coffin was open and the body inside was quote-unquote disturbed, but the most macabre act was driving an iron stake in the form of a cross through the lid and into the breast of the corpse. Some months later, on the 1st of August 1970, the charred and headless remains of a woman were found not far from the catacombs. There's like a catacomb area in this cemetery where you can like go under. And it's where people with more money would bury the dead. Her body was not found far from the catacombs. The police suspected that it had been used in black magic, Farrant was found by police in the churchyard beside the Highgate Cemetery one night in August, carrying a crucifix and a wooden stake. He was arrested, but when the case came to court, it was dismissed. Farrant was considered a person of interest in this case as well, by the way. Just some random vampire hunter dude. There was more publicity about Farrant and Manchester when rumours spread that they would meet in a magician's duel on Parliament Hill on Friday the 13th of April 1973. Yeah, go for the 13th, that's the best day. Which apparently never occurred. Farrant was jailed in 1974 for damaging memorials and interfering with the dead remains in Highgate Cemetery, vandalism and desecration, which he insisted had been caused by the Satanists, not him. According to the author Bill Ellis, the Hammer horror film Dracula, the 1972 one, was actually inspired by the Highgate Vampire. Now, there's more recent sightings come about this. Do you remember the Twilight craze?
Yes.
Right. When Twilight got super popular, a bunch of people were like, hey, there's a vampire in Highgate, let's go hang out there in the middle of the night. A bunch of teenagers, and there's been numerous reportings, like, from the 60s, like, to, like, the 80s-ish, there was quite a few reportings, but then it kind of died down, and then when the Twilight craze happened, there was a few more reportings, so people were spending a lot of time there hoping to meet a vampire. But yeah, apparently there is a vampire stomping around, and there's been bodies found, there's been sightings of the person, people have claimed to have left there with puncture wounds on their necks and such, and no memories. You know, just your casual run-of-the-mill vampire.
Well, that's... You know, okay, so... You mentioned in like 1960s, and I'm just picturing this vampire walking around looking like Austin Powers.
Groovy, baby.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
And like going and biting out people's necks. Going, I don't sparkle, baby, yeah.
Give me some of that sweet blood.
Oh god, I think it was like just like a thing in this, you know, in the 60s when people were starting to just like not, because there was the whole thing with like fighting with the police and stuff, so people wouldn't care so much about going to areas. The thing that interests me is the Farrant guy, because he claims that he was like an exorcist and he was going there to take care of vampires and Satanists who were worshipping in the graveyards, and there was all these like symbols found, and like all the flower arrangements and headstones and tombs have been messed around with to give off like this aura of like just like evil magic. And it's like, I think to me that's the most interesting bit, is like those sort of like patterns apparently were like repeated in the 2000s, but there was no pictures released from the Farrant case like back then. As far as I'm aware anyway. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but as far as I could find, there was like no images of the symbols being there, but there's reports that they were the same symbols as back in the 60s.
Yeah, but I mean, the symbols themselves, I mean, what...
They didn't mention what they were.
It was probably like pentagrams. You know, just typical occultist type symbols. But it does sound like he was the one like running around fucking shit up. Yeah. Like he was totally doing that.
Oh yeah.
But like honestly, like I know we're like making fun of like this and everything, but it makes you wonder, like there's been just like stories about like vampires throughout history and all that. So I really wonder, like, do they really like, are they still out there, or they were? It's just really crazy what you hear in different parts of the world that, you know, makes you go like, oh, vampire, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing with like vampire stuff that like interests me is like there's actually quite a lot of vampire stories in like the UK folklore kind of area, where there's a few arguments that were made for like an old legend called Spring-Heeled Jack apparently being a vampire. There was, you know, the whole idea around a vampire is like this like manly cloaked figure that will like capture women and ensnare them. And I think maybe, you know, skeptic, maybe when women were assaulted by horrible people, they just said it was a vampire so it'd be easier to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, make it into something supernatural. That way it's not as scary as it could have been your neighbor that...
Yeah, I mean the Manchester guy's also pretty interesting because Manchester and Farron were both different people, and they both claimed to be like competent exorcist, and that the other one was like not doing their job, and this guy sucks. I'm the real one. It was like a Punch and Judy thing between them. Apparently, it was quite funny.
Yeah, that's face like, yeah, I'm the real one. No, I am.
Yep.
It's like, really? Okay.
I mean, we've just found a corpse that's been like, the top of the coffin's been messed with. The corpse has had a fucking stake put through the chest. Which one of you did it? Well, it was me. No, me. No, me.
Yeah, it's like, who would claim that?
I feel so sorry for the police back then trying to figure all that out.
Right?
You know, that's the funny thing. To think about cases and stuff being solved back then. Because without the internet and without everybody being connected at all times, you could just make shit up. And the cops would be like, okay, I guess that sounds plausible. Like, there was really not, there was not a whole lot of investigating they could have really done.
It just always reminds me of that meme of like olden times, like, you got demons in your blood, do coke about it, do meth.
Alright, well, I guess that leads us into our last story. Everybody knows that Florida Man is both the greatest and worst superhero. And I personally have a theory that every story that comes out of Florida featuring Florida Man, it's one person. I just think he can shapeshift. So...
Right, I am telling you guys now, it is aliens, okay? I'm serious. I'm not even joking. The skeptic in me is at the door, right? Area 51 memes, all that stuff. It's Florida Man. They took it all to Florida after Roswell, and that's why people are crazy in Florida, is because it's either the aliens and they're covering it up, because what kind of person runs around like slapping people with hot dogs? Florida Man. Or an alien thinking it's a weapon, right? Or, alien technology gives off some kind of radiation and messes with people's brains. Like, they're both valid arguments.
I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because, like, I live in Florida. I've been living here for 12 years, and I can confirm the Florida Man is it's just like, it's like a mystical creature. Like, what the hell? It's just, it's crazy. It's crazy how many crazy, like, insane stories are out there of the Florida Man. And I can confirm because, like, I've seen some stuff myself. What the hell? Like, this place, this steak is crazy in itself.
You're just not slapping enough people with hot dogs. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the heat or if it's the aliens, but something's going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
So this story is spectacular for so many reasons. The headline reads, and this is from Game Rant, Florida Man gets busted for drugs because he was playing Pokemon Go at 2 a.m. Pokemon Go encourages people to explore the real world in search of Pokemon. But unfortunately, its blend of video games and real life has seen the game associated with various crimes right from the get-go. It's true that crime stories tied to Pokemon Go become less frequent since at the height of the game, it was 2016. That doesn't mean that they've all completely ceased. At 2 a.m., 29-year-old Jonathan Ortiz was in Beacon Meadows Park, which is located in the northern section of Tampa, Florida. Apparently, Ortiz was at the park so late at night so that he could play Pokemon Go. But Beacon Meadows Park officially closes at sunset. A sheriff's deputy noticed Ortiz playing the game after hours, and upon approach, noted that he was openly smoking marijuana. That led to a search of Ortiz's vehicle, where the sheriff's deputy discovered 3.5 grams of cocaine, 5.5 pounds of THC oil, and a pound of marijuana, according to local news. I mean, if you're going to do it, you got to go hard.
I mean, if you're going to catch them all, you need to be fueled up. You know what I mean?
You need to have all necessary while catching Pokemons.
He's not just catching all the Pokemons, he's catching all the drugs.
I mean, he's got the marijuana to take him down, he's got the cocaine to keep him awake.
There is that's what it is. If you've ever played Pokemon, there's like potions in that game that like give you Pokemon buffs and like buff their attack and their speed and their defense, and then there's like the healing potions. That's what it is. They're his potions, man.
Exactly. Basically, this poor guy, and I say poor guy, I don't know. He seems like a horrible guy. I don't know. He may be a good guy.
A mythical guy.
He ended up going to jail. Clearly, he ended up going to jail because, when you're playing Pokemon Go at 2 o'clock in the morning, walking around smoking a joint as you're doing it, it's always a good idea to have your entire stash in your back seat. So yeah, good old Florida man.
Good old Florida man.
Oh boy. It's really funny what you hear in Florida and what you sometimes see. Like, it's just like, how is that possible? How can one man do something so ridiculously like funny and like I'm dumb.
Oh yeah, just completely dumb. But needless to say, we're going to have several Florida Man articles, I'm sure, in our News of Weird.
I just want to say, last thing on the Pokemon Florida man. His picture, like if you look this article up and look at his mugshot, he just looks so done with life. Like, he looks like the type of person you will find in a park at 2 a.m. smoking weed and just being like, I'm gonna go catch a Pikachu. He looks
I'm
so
just done.
Yeah. He just looks so fed up and tired. It's like, I feel you, man. I get that.
I'm right there with you, bud.
Yeah.
I mean, like, living here in a state that, like, all this crazy stuff are happening and all that, like, I will be done too. Like, I'm done. I'm out.
I got an idea. What if he wasn't actually playing Pokemon Go? What if he was searching for vampires?
You know what? He may have been searching for vampires.
It makes as much sense.
But of course, he said he was searching for Pokemons because, like, nobody's gonna believe I'm searching for vampires. Better say Pokemon.
Yeah, because I mean, he would just sound like a crazy person if he was like, I'm searching for the vampire. He's dressed like Austin Powers, and he's out here.
Oh, we needed that. We needed that giggle, Jesus.
So yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps up everything for this episode. Stay tuned for further installments, especially of Florida Man. And yeah, as always, this has been Betty Tucker and Noodles and Talia. Oh, and Kevin. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
I'm just disappointed.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Bye,
Cheers.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.